The thing is, I did not think I was cruel. I thought I was honest, and honesty looked better in leggings. My husband had become soft, tired, and too comfortable beside me. So when he asked to join my gym, I thought motivation had finally worked. I did not know he was already learning how to leave me properly. My name is Valentina Moretti. I was 36, and I managed brand partnerships for a boutique fitness wear company. The thing is, I knew how to look expensive, controlled, and wanted, and I treated that like discipline. I believed soft things became weak things if nobody corrected them early. That included my husband. Elias had not always looked heavy to me. That is the part people like to skip, because it makes the story cleaner. When we first married, he had warm shoulders, quick hands, and a face that made strangers trust him at airports. He used to wake before me on shoot days and leave coffee near the bathroom sink because I said kitchen light made me look tired. For years, Sunday meant the bakery on Westmere Street. We walked there without phones. He carried the paper bag because I liked my hands free. He always saved me the corner piece of the almond loaf, even though he liked it too. Then his father got sick, his work got heavier, and Elias became tired in a way that showed. His shirts pulled at the stomach, his jaw softened. His eyes carried that grey, out-of-shape look men get when they stop sleeping and pretend they are fine. At first, I made small jokes. I told him his old jeans had become ambitious. I told him he looked like somebody's tired uncle when he wore beige. I said the grey gym towel hanging in our hallway was optimistic because he never used it long enough to sweat through it. Elias laughed the first few times. Then he smiled without showing teeth. One morning, near the apartment door, he asked what had changed between us. He said I used to touch his arm when I passed him, and now I looked at him like he had left something dirty on the floor. I heard blame. Not sadness. Blame. So I told him attraction needed maintenance. I told him I was not cruel for noticing what mirrors noticed first. The thing is, I thought honesty was motivation when it came from someone attractive enough to deliver it. Later, I sent Kira a voice note from the elevator. I told her my husband was aging like an unpaid bill. Kira sent back laughing emojis and said maybe he needed a little shame to wake up. That night, Elias stood in the bathroom doorway while I took off my earrings. He held the grey towel in one hand and said he wanted to join my gym. The gym smelled like rubber mats, citrus cleaner, and warm metal. I used to like that smell because it made everything feel possible. Bodies changed there. Weakness got corrected there. Softness had no excuse under bright lights. Elias stood beside me at the reception desk with his work bag still over one shoulder. He wore a navy t-shirt that was too loose at the neck and too tight across the stomach. He kept smoothing the front as if his hands could fix what the mirror already saw. The thing is, I could have been kind then. He was trying. He was not arguing anymore. He was standing in my world, under my lights, asking to become someone I could want again. That should have softened me. Instead, I felt pleased. That is ugly to say. I know. But there was power in watching him sign the membership form. His name went under mine in the system because I had referred him. He had entered my space through me. The girl at the desk asked if he wanted a standard plan or guided sessions. Elias looked at me before answering. He said he would start with general access and come with me 3 times a week. I told him we would see what came out of him. He laughed once because he thought I meant progress. I meant proof. Marco Bellini was already on the training floor when we walked in. He was 32, broad through the shoulders, and careful with his smile. He was not the biggest trainer there, but he knew exactly how to stand near mirrors. Marco had been training me twice a week for 4 months, and I liked the version of myself reflected beside him. Tighter, younger, chosen. He came over and greeted me first. Then he looked at Elias and said, "Elias must be the husband." That word sounded smaller than it should have. Elias shook his hand and said he was trying to get back into shape. He said it plainly, like a man admitting a delay at work. Marco said everyone started somewhere. It was harmless. It should have stayed harmless. But then Marco looked at me and said, I had already passed the point where most people quit. I smiled because praise feels cleaner when someone fit gives it to you. My husband stood there holding his water bottle, and the bottle made a small crackling sound under his fingers. We started separately. Elias walked on the treadmill while Marco took me through hip hinges and cable rows. The weight rack mirror showed everything at once. My waist, Marco's hands hovering near my form, Elias in the background, red-faced, trying not to stare. Marco corrected my posture. His hand touched the back of my ribs for half a second. Professional, maybe. Maybe not. I did not move away. My husband looked down at the treadmill screen. I told myself this was motivation. If Elias saw what discipline looked like, he would stop hiding inside tiredness. If he saw me beside someone like Marco, he would understand that being loved did not mean being safe forever. After the session, Elias met me near the lockers. His face was damp, and he had wrapped the grey towel around his neck like a small flag of surrender. He asked why Marco had said he had a long road ahead. I told him because he did. Elias said he was not asking whether it was true. He was asking why I let another man say it in front of me. That was his S2 way, though I did not know it then. Specific. Factual. One named incident. One real question. I still found a way to dodge it. I told him he was being too sensitive. I said insecurity burned fewer calories than cardio. Then I laughed because if I made it light, he had to either laugh too or become the problem. He did not laugh. The thing is, Elias had a flaw that worked too well with mine. He avoided conflict until it became a room he lived inside. If I pushed, he stepped back. If I mocked, he went quiet. If I said something was motivation, he tried to believe me because believing me hurt less than naming me. That week, Marco started messaging me outside gym hours. Nothing explicit. Workout reminders, recovery tips, a comment about how my discipline was rare, a laughing line about Elias, looking like he wanted the treadmill to rescue him. I did not tell my husband. That was my first active choice. Not the worst one, but the first clean one. My phone lit up while Elias was making dinner, and I turned it face down before he could see Marco's name. He asked if it was work. I said yes. He nodded and kept stirring the sauce. The lie sat between us, small and useful. Kira came to the gym the next Thursday. She said she wanted to support my new project, meaning Elias. She stood near the stretching area with an iced coffee, watching him learn machines like a tourist reading signs in another language. Elias asked her how long she had been coming there. Kira said she only came when Valentina made something interesting happen. I heard admiration. Elias heard warning. Bianca noticed before I gave her credit for it. At dinner that weekend, she asked why all my stories about Elias sounded like content now. I told her she was being dramatic. She said jokes became different when only one person kept bleeding from them. I changed the subject. At work, Dana saw one of my gym stories. It was just Marco correcting my plank angle while Elias moved behind us in the mirror. She said public jokes aged badly online, especially when people could screenshot tone. I told Dana she worked in campaigns too long and now saw risk in sunlight. Still, I checked the story twice that night. Marco sent me a message after midnight. He said my husband had looked like he wanted to disappear. I stared at the message for longer than needed. Then I typed that maybe disappearing would count as cardio. Marco sent a laughing face. I smiled in bed beside my sleeping husband, and the room felt lighter than it had in months. Busy evenings at the gym had a social order. The serious people took the squat racks. The men who wanted to be watched gathered near free weights. The women with perfect sets and matching bottles claimed the mirror wall like a runway. I knew my place there. My husband did not. He moved carefully, always checking whether he was in someone's way. His grey towel hung from his shoulder. His shirt was darker at the chest from sweat, and his face had gone blotchy. He was trying again. I can say that now without softening it. He was trying in the exact place where I had told him he failed. The thing is, I did not want trying. I wanted transformation already. I wanted the after picture without standing beside the before picture for too long. Marco was training me near the weight rack mirror. Kira had come again, sitting on a bench near the lockers with her phone in her hand. She said she was there for moral support. That meant she wanted a show. Elias was doing cable rows 2 machines away. He kept checking his form in the mirror, jaw tight, like he was trying to borrow confidence from the room. Marco told me my hip alignment was better. He asked if I wanted to try a partner stretch because my mobility had improved. I said yes before he finished asking. There were other trainers nearby. There were other ways to stretch. I knew that. I also knew Elias could hear us. Marco stepped close behind me and guided my arms into position. His hands touched my waist, then shifted to my side to correct my balance. It was not enough for anyone to call it wrong. It was enough for me to feel watched. That was the point. I laughed louder than the correction deserved. I told Elias he should watch Marco's form because that was what effort looked like. My husband looked at me through the mirror. Not directly. Through the mirror. Like looking straight at me would cost too much. He lost count on his set. Marco said some people needed beginner energy around them and some people had outgrown it. Kira laughed first. That laugh gave me permission I did not need but wanted anyway. I wiped my forehead with the back of my wrist and said, maybe I should trade my fat boy for a real man. The words did not explode. That would make them easier to excuse. They landed flat and clear across the mirror wall. A man near the weight plates stopped loading his bar. Later I learned his name was Marcus Reed. At the time, he was just a stranger who looked at my husband with recognition too heavy for a stranger. The music kept playing. A machine beeped somewhere. Marco smiled because smiling was his safest habit, but even he glanced toward the cameras. Elias placed the handle back on the cable machine. He did not raise his voice. He did not call me names. He did not storm in a way I could use against him. He reached for the grey towel on his shoulder, folded it once, then folded it again. His fingers were careful on the corners. He placed it on the bench between us like he was returning something borrowed. Then he told me I had made my point. That was all. I hated how quiet it was. Quiet made me look loud. Quiet gave everyone else space to think. So I filled the space. I told him not to be so dramatic. I said this was exactly what I meant, about weak energy. I said if a joke could break his confidence, then maybe confidence was not the thing he should be training first. Elias looked at Marco. Marco looked away. Then my husband said he wanted to know one thing. He asked if I had brought him there to improve or to watch. That question should have cut me. Instead, I heard accusation again. I heard control. I heard a man who had let himself go trying to make me responsible for noticing. The thing is, I had built a perfect defense. I was not flirting. I was motivating. I was not humiliating him. I was showing him consequences. I was not cruel. I was honest in public because private honesty had not worked. So I told him he could leave if the room was too heavy for him. He nodded once. That nod made Kira stop smiling. Elias walked toward the locker corridor without the towel. His shoulders were rounded, but not in the old, tired way. Something had changed in their line. He looked less embarrassed than finished. I misread that too. I thought leaving first meant weakness. I thought he had run from the lesson because the lesson worked. I watched him past the reception desk, and I told myself he would come home ashamed enough to start trying harder. Kira came over after he left. She said the room had gone weird. Her voice was quieter than usual, but she still had her phone in her hand. She had recorded part of it for a private story, then deleted the public version after Elias looked at her. I asked if she still had it. She said it was in the group chat, but not to worry because it was funny only if people understood us. That phrase stayed with me later. If people understood us. People did understand. Just not the way I wanted. Marcus picked up a plate near the bench and looked at the folded grey towel. He did not speak to me. He carried his weights back slowly, like he was giving Elias's absence a shape. Marco touched my elbow and said, I should not let one awkward moment ruin a good session. I wanted to believe him because he made things feel simple: sweat, form, effort, progress. No marriage history, no sick fathers, no bakery walks, no man asking why I no longer touched his arm when I passed him. So I finished the workout. That was one of the worst details, I think. Not the sentence. Not even the laugh. The worst detail was that after my husband walked out, I still did 3 more sets. When I came home, Elias was in the shower. His gym clothes were folded outside the bathroom door. The grey towel was not there because he had left it behind. I stood in the hallway and texted Marco that Elias had survived day 1 of real motivation. Marco replied later than usual. He said I should probably let things cool down. I told myself he was being professional. In the morning, the grey towel was on the kitchen chair. Elias must have gone back for it before work. It was folded, dry, and placed where I would see it. He said nothing about it. That silence felt like a challenge, so I stepped over it. 2 nights later, Bianca came over without calling first. She brought no wine, no pastries, no normal sister offering. She stood in our living room with her coat still buttoned and looked at me like I had become someone she knew how to name but did not want to. The apartment smelled like laundry detergent and overcooked rice. Elias was in the bedroom sorting clothes. I was on the couch with my laptop open, pretending to answer work messages. Bianca said Kira had told her about the gym. The thing is, I expected judgment from strangers. Strangers loved clean villains. Bianca was not a stranger, so her face annoyed me more. I told her Kira exaggerated everything. Bianca said she did not need the exaggeration. She said the sentence was enough. She said calling my husband a fat boy beside a trainer was not motivation. There it was again. Motivation, spoken like a lie. I told her Elias had stopped trying for years. I said nobody wanted to admit how lonely it was to sleep beside someone who had given up on being desired. Bianca did not argue right away. That was inconvenient. If she had shouted, I could have called her dramatic. Instead, she asked why my lonely feeling needed Marco's hands on my waist to become clear. I closed the laptop. Elias came out carrying a basket of clean clothes. He paused when he saw Bianca. Not surprised, just tired. He set the basket on the chair and took out a new black gym shirt. The tag was still attached near the collar. I had not seen it before. He folded it slowly, first in half, then the sleeves in, then once across the middle. He did it with care that made the room smaller. That was the moment the door opened. Not guilt, not yet. Something quieter. The shirt was not for vanity. It was not for Marco. It was not even for fitness. Not really. Elias had bought it because of me. Because I had made his old shirts feel like evidence. Because he wanted to stand beside me in my gym without becoming a joke before he even touched a machine. His hands smoothed the fabric once, and for a second I saw the shape of what I had done. He had not joined my gym to become better. He had joined because home had become a place where his body was always on trial. The door stayed open for maybe 3 breaths. Then I shut it. I told myself pain was part of progress. I told myself people hated the person who pushed them until they thanked them later. I told myself softness always defended itself before it changed. Elias placed the shirt on top of the basket. He said it was never one joke. He said it was never one trainer. He said it was never one bad day when I was stressed or honest or trying to help. It was the way I had turned every room into a mirror and then punished him for what I saw. That was his pattern speech. The accumulation. Not one incident. I heard a speech prepared against me, so I gave him a controlled truth. I said the joke had gone too far. I said I should not have used that word in public. I said he deserved better timing. Bianca looked at me when I said timing. Elias asked if I was sorry for hurting him or sorry people heard me. I told him he always made things heavier than they needed to be. The room changed after that, not loudly. The rice cooker clicked off in the kitchen. A car passed outside with music leaking through the window. Bianca took her coat off, then put it back on, as if sitting down would make her part of my version. She told me she loved me, but she was not going to laugh at this. She said I was not motivating Elias. I was making him small so I could feel untouched by age. That word age hit harder than cruelty. I told her she sounded like our mother. Bianca's face tightened. She said our mother had taught us to fear becoming invisible, but I was the one making a man disappear in his own house. Elias picked up the grey towel from the laundry pile. He did not use it. He did not throw it. He opened the narrow drawer beside the hallway cabinet and placed it inside by itself. Then he closed the drawer with 2 fingers. It was a small movement, too small to argue with. I rationalized it as another performance. Fine, I thought. Let him fold towels and act wounded. Let him be the quiet, injured one if that made him feel strong. The reader would have understood before I did. The towel was no longer laundry. It was a marker, a date, a thing placed where memory could find it later. After Bianca left, I called Kira. She did not answer. She texted 20 minutes later that she was tired and hoped I was okay. No joke, no flame emoji, no long voice note. At work the next day, Dana moved our lunch meeting to email. She said deadlines were tight. I saw her that afternoon leaving with 2 women from the creative team, all of them carrying salads from the place we usually went together. Marco messaged me that gym drama faded fast and people had short attention spans. He added that Elias probably needed space. I read the message twice and focused on the part I liked. That night, Elias moved his pillow to the guest room. He did not ask. He did not announce it. He carried it under one arm while I stood near the hallway drawer where the grey towel waited. I told myself distance could be another kind of weakness. The restaurant terrace sat above the street, with small lamps on every table and heaters glowing orange near the glass rail. I had chosen it after the fitness wear brand event because the lighting was good and the crowd knew me. That mattered more than I admitted. I invited my husband because I wanted proof that we were still presentable. I wanted Bianca to stop looking at me like a warning. I wanted Dana to see that nothing had damaged my image. I wanted Kira back in her old place, laughing before anyone else decided whether something was funny. The thing is, I did not invite Elias to heal anything. I invited him as evidence. He arrived in a dark shirt that fit better than his old ones. Not perfect, not transformed, but better. That irritated me because improvement without my permission felt like theft. He had been going to the gym at odd hours, never with me. He no longer asked which machines to use. Kira sat beside me at first, but kept checking her phone. Bianca sat across from us, quiet. Dana came late and chose the far end of the table. Marco appeared after the event with 2 other trainers, casual in the way men act when they want deniability. He touched the back of my chair when he greeted me. Not my shoulder. Not my waist. The chair. He was already becoming careful. I ignored that. Someone asked how the campaign had gone. I explained the activation, the influencer turnout, the conversion numbers. Work language made me feel sharp again. Then Marco said my discipline had made the product look better than the models. It was a small compliment. I turned it into a stage. I said Marco was responsible for keeping my market value high. I said some people understood maintenance and some people thought loyalty should cover neglect. The table changed. Elias looked at me. Not through a mirror this time. Dana put her glass down. Bianca's mouth tightened. Kira gave one small laugh, then covered it by sipping her drink. My husband asked if I could step away from the table for a minute. Calm. Clean. Final before I knew it was final. I told him anything he needed to say could be said there since everyone had opinions anyway. That was the voluntary line. I did not slip into it. I chose it. He said he would go home with me right then if I could stop performing long enough to speak to him like my husband. There was no begging in it. That should have scared me. Begging would have meant I still controlled the room. His offer sounded like a door held open by someone who would not hold it much longer. For 1 second, the terrace noise thinned. Forks against plates, a laugh from another table, a heater clicking. Then I reached for the one true thing I had. I told him he had stopped trying for years and expected loyalty to replace attraction. He did not refute it, because he could not. Part of it was true. He had withdrawn into work, his father's care, tired evenings, and silent service. He had shown love by fixing things and paying bills and remembering bakery orders, then expected me to understand that desire could live there too. He had let himself become unavailable in ways that had nothing to do with weight. I was right about that. Being right made my next cruelty feel clean. Elias said being right about pain did not make cruelty clean. I hated that sentence because it stepped around the fight and went straight to the structure under it. So I made my refusal sharper. I said I was tired of carrying a marriage that looked like a before picture. I said I wanted a man who did not make me feel like I was aging by association. I said maybe the problem was that he wanted husband benefits with fat boy discipline. Marco laughed once. Only once. No one followed him. That single laugh became smaller than silence. Elias looked at Marco, then at me. He did not insult either of us. He did not ask me to apologize. He did not give the table a scene they could retell with hand gestures. He said he would handle things properly. No legal words, no threat, no drama, just properly. The thing is, properly sounded weak to me because I still thought power had volume. I told him to enjoy organizing his feelings into little folders. I said maybe spreadsheets counted as cardio for him. Elias stood. Bianca said his name softly, but he shook his head once. Not angry, not cold. Clear. He left the terrace. This time nobody laughed after he was gone. I stayed because leaving after him would have looked like losing. I talked more. I praised the campaign more. I touched Marco's sleeve once and he shifted his arm to reach for his water. Small, smooth, public enough that Dana saw it. Kira said she needed to get up early and left before dessert. That was new. Bianca told me outside the bathroom that I was not defending myself anymore. She said I was feeding something that would eat me next. I told her she had always preferred quiet men because they made women like us easier to judge. She said our mother would have loved that excuse. Then she left too. By the time I got home, Elias's shoes were gone from the entryway. Not all of them, just the ones he actually wore. His work laptop was gone. The grey towel was gone from the drawer. I sent Kira 3 voice notes while standing in the hallway. I said everyone had turned dramatic. I said Elias had embarrassed me by walking out. I said Marco was the only person who understood that attraction had standards. Kira answered with a thumbs-up emoji. That was all. One tiny blue hand where a whole person used to be. Marco texted after midnight. He said we should avoid posting together for a while because people at the gym were talking. He said he did not want Elias making things weird with management. I stared at his message and told myself he was protecting both of us. But the sentence had no us in it. The next morning, Elias came back while I was brushing my hair. He moved through the apartment with a duffel bag and a printed checklist. He did not search. He did not hesitate. He took documents from the desk drawer, his watch from the tray, 2 shirts from the closet, and the phone charger from his side of the bed. I asked if he was enjoying the performance. He said he was done performing pain for someone who called it motivation. That should have been the final line between us. I still stepped over it. I told him he looked better already, and that maybe losing me would be the only workout he ever completed. He zipped the duffel bag. The sound was short and final. He left without closing the door hard. That was the worst part. He closed it normally, as if the apartment had become an office he was done using. The civil mediation office had beige walls, a glass water dispenser, and chairs that made every person sit too upright. I arrived expecting divorce talk. Numbers. Property. Maybe one dramatic paragraph about emotional distance that his side had prepared to make him look noble. Bianca came with me, but she sat one chair away. The mediator placed 2 folders on the table. Elias sat across from me in a grey sweater I did not recognize. He looked rested. Not happy. Rested. That bothered me more than anger would have. The first document was named Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. The second was Civil Complaint for Defamation and Intentional Infliction of Emotional Distress. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following month. I pressed my nails into the folder until the corner bent. The mediator explained that the complaint included the gym recording from Kira's group chat, the witness statement from Marcus Reed, screenshots of my messages, and statements from the restaurant terrace. No new secret appeared. No trap. Just my own words placed in order. I said it had been motivation. The mediator looked at the folder and asked why motivation required another man, public body shaming, and repeated jokes about replacing my husband. I had no sentence ready for that shape. Marco's part ended quickly. He sent a formal statement to the gym owner saying his conduct had been professional and that I had misunderstood friendly trainer behavior. By morning, every tagged post with me was gone from his page. I moved into a smaller rental above a dry cleaner where my clothes smelled faintly of steam. My savings shrank under legal fees, settlement payments, and monthly non-economic compensation to my husband. Bianca stayed polite but distant. Dana stopped eating lunch with me, and Kira became someone who only liked old photos. Marco left my messages unread after protecting his own job. My company removed me from public-facing brand events for 6 months. 2 years later, my body changed. Stress did what I used to accuse weakness of doing. My waist softened. My face held weight differently. Bright mirrors became something I avoided unless I could control the angle. I saw my husband on a city park running path one cold morning. He looked stronger than he had looked beside me. Clearer, too. Beside him was a woman named Nora, though I learned that later. She held herself without performing it. Outside a cafe, I told him I was sorry. I said I understood now what it meant to make someone's body feel like a public problem. He looked at my hand when I reached toward his sleeve. Then he said, I should not touch him because his skin might get greasy from me. Nora did not laugh. She took his hand, and they walked away. The thing is, I thought my body made me safer than him. I thought looking desirable meant I could not be abandoned. I trained my husband to live without needing my approval. Then I became the woman asking for softness from a man I had taught to close. The grey towel stays folded in my memory, inside a drawer I no longer own. The last thing he gave me was the shape of my own voice coming back.